Thank you for stopping by the Michigan Soccer Network. To not miss out on any of the action, all you have to do is simply hit the subscribe button, and that way you're notified every time we bring new content or go live. Thanks for stopping by.
I watch soccer on the Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
لا تنسون تتابعونا على Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I like to watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
Me gusta mirar fútbol en Michigan Soccer Network.
I watch soccer on Michigan Soccer Network.
I love watching soccer on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Back to Vitriol. He'll take a shot and he'll bear it! And then he'll fire it from Billows and it'll go in! Now Worrell has a good cutback from him. He'll fire one, and that's gonna go in! Oh, and both goals so far. He'll fire one, and that's a wonderful save, Trinity. That's missed. Oh, it's Stone! And the he'll fire one now from distance, and that is in! What a strike by Ben Maher!
Welcome to Viewpoints Amongst Referees. I'm Steve Besk. Excited to bring you the second episode here of the V.A.R. Today's episode, we welcome in guest Nicole Green to discuss refereeing at different ages, different skill levels and genders, and differences between the men's and women's games. I'm excited for that conversation today here on the podcast. First off, though, I want to remind everyone to please head over to our YouTube page and hit that subscribe button. Just search Michigan Soccer Network. You can find all our content, previous episodes of the V.A.R., as well as all of the other content that is on our channel. Especially pay attention to that subscriber number, because when it hits that lucky 3,000, I have agreed to take on the Packy One Chip Challenge and film that live here on the network. John is super excited for me to experience such pain in eating a single tortilla chip. I also cannot wait. But without further ado, I would like to introduce our guest today. Nicole Green is welcoming into the show a good friend of mine, a colleague of mine, USSF and NCAA official for over 22 years. Nicole, welcome into the program. Glad to have you here and be part of this, one of our first interview on the V.A.R.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Excited to be here.
So let's just talk a little bit about your background. Obviously, we've ref together for several years. How did you get into refereeing?
Yeah, so, played all my life growing up, and at a point, had to come to the realization, not good enough to play at a D1 level, but I was going to school at the University of Michigan, and needed to make a little bit of money to pay for some stuff, and I was in the intramural sports building, and funny enough, my best friend saw a sign on the wall, and her dad was an NFL referee, but the sign said soccer referees wanted. And so we both walked into that intramural officials clinic, and here I am 22 years later.
The rest is history. Yeah, no, it is kind of crazy to think about. At a recent clinic I was just at, someone asked me, like, I was having conversation with some new referees that I had never met from some other states, and asking them, how long have you been involved doing this? And a couple of them were like, this is like my second season doing college, and it's my third season. And I'm like sitting there going like, okay, like this is really awesome. Like, you're going to love this experience. And they're like, well, how long have you been doing it? And I was like, well, this will be my 17th fall. And saying that number out loud is like a little bit scary. Like, I was thinking even on the drive in today, like, I've been reffing I didn't start at 14 or 15. I started at 18 out of high school. Like, this will be my 19th season in this fall, like, reffing. And like, holy smokes, that's coming up on 20 years. Like, this is like, wow. Like, and I always like envisioned that when I was a younger referee, like, at some point I'll hit that 15, 20 year mark and like look back, and like now it's here. It's like right now.
You're that guy.
It's a bit scary. thinking about all the different recertification classes and things that have gone in. So yeah, obviously you got started back then and have made your way up the ranks doing games and all sorts of conferences and levels of play. Former USSF national referee. You were the first woman to do a men's professional final here in the U.S. doing the NISA Championship back in 2020. Talk about that experience and what that meant to you, but then also just, being able to reach that pinnacle of the professional level, like let alone being the first woman to do that, which is amazing. Just being on that game, involved in that game in general is a huge accomplishment.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. And it's funny. That was one of those, as you guys know, the quality and the level of play of soccer here in Michigan is just at such a high level. And so that has really, I think it's enabled us to develop as referees because we're doing the highest quality skill level of players. And, DCFC and the Michigan Stars and other teams have been right in our backyard. And I don't think we've realized, how fortunate we are for that. That really challenges and develops us as referees. But so that year, 2020, coming out of COVID, had done, a kind of piecemealed together NISA season that year, and they hosted, they brought all the teams in and called it the COVID bubble, like what we were doing in 2020 to get through life. And all the teams were in Detroit for about 2 weeks. And yeah, to get the assignment to be doing the final was just it was a huge, awesome experience, very different than the typical DCFC game because there were 0 fans in any of those stands.
Probably the best time to ref a game at Keyworth is
exactly.
No fans. John and I have talked about that environment plenty of times. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So you're out there and you can hear a pin drop. I mean, and you can literally hear on the video the conversations that I'm having with the players on the field, which would never happen any other game. But then, yeah, the match went amazing. There's a couple really big decisions. And then, to kind of come off that match and then just realize, it was quite an opportunity and an experience as a woman national referee to hear that I was the first to do a men's professional league in this country. So that was really exciting.
Yeah, and it sounds like we've got a lot more to dive into. But just wanted to give everybody here a little understanding of Nicole's background and what she has been doing the last several years. We've had the pleasure of refereeing together for a long time. But when we come back from break, we are going to dive into our topic today about refereeing different age groups, skill levels, genders, and the men's versus women's game. Here with Nicole Green, my special guest for today, and we'll be right back after this break.
Thank you for stopping by the Michigan Soccer Network. To not miss out on any of the action, all you have to do is simply hit the subscribe button, and that way you're notified every time we bring new content or go live. Thanks for stopping by.
Clubs love Ollie because it helps them manage their club and accelerate the development of their coaches and players. Every soccer club talks about their focus on development, but nobody actually measures it until now. We've developed the capability for every one of your teams to easily capture pro-level game stats in real time using a mobile phone. It's one thing at the end of the day to look up the results for your club, but how valuable would it be for directors to actually see how each team played? How well did a team possess the ball and control the game? How well did they create dangerous chances inside the box? How did your top players perform? And how is each coach improving from week to week? Ollie provides this powerful data through a club dashboard that shows club results and lets you drill down into any game or player. Ollie also includes team and club management that lets you communicate instantly with coaches, parents, and players, and lets directors see every club event so they can easily coordinate visits to matches and training sessions. It's got everything you need in one simple app. Reach out to us to get your club started today.
We're going to try and win this thing. We're going to go for it, right? You're watching your team, you're watching them play, you're watching them practice. Is this a team you thought at the beginning of the year was going to be there at the end?
Yes. And honestly, I told my team this, and I told a lot of people this. It wasn't unexpected. I think we have a top program. I was actually pretty disappointed that we hadn't won one up until now. I think we've had some great years before, 2016, 2017, 18, even 21, 19. I mean, where things just didn't click. They didn't work out for us at the end of the season. where we had great seasons and it didn't work out. But this year, everything came together, and to be honest, it wasn't unexpected.
Okay. No, and that's good. I mean, like, you think about it, you said there's lots of times you watch, and we had Todd Hugh here a few weeks ago, and there was a year that his team did not make it all the way to a state final, and that was the team that he said was the better team that he thought was going to go. And then when they won it, and maybe not been the better team he had, but that's sometimes.
Welcome back here to the V.A.R. I'm your host, Steve Besk, and alongside me today is my good friend and colleague, Nicole Green, and we are going to discuss today what it's like to ref different age groups, different skill levels, and kind of what goes into some of the different aspects of the game. Nicole, welcome back in, and we're going to start out with reffing different age groups in this country, whether it goes from youth to older youth in high school to college versus pro, and kind of some of the main points and differences that kind of fall within some of those different age groups and how we attack those as referees. And we're going to start out with talking about the physicality or the physical play in refereeing, and what's that like when you're managing a youth game in physical play compared to maybe an older like high school game.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. As you guys know, the game of soccer, the laws, the rules, they're very subjective, right? So it might say in writing, pushing is a foul, but a push in a U13 game could look totally different than a push in a women's professional game or in a men's collegiate game. And so, that's really tough, I think, for us as referees to try to maintain some consistency, because as you pointed out, Steve, the players that when we step a foot out on a field, we could be refereeing any level, play, age group, skill level, ability, you name it. And so to interpret what that push looks like at different levels is a big challenge. And I think, as I've always approached the game, if we can try to be consistent for 90 minutes, or if a push in the first minute looks consistent throughout that game, or what does the crowd or the fans or the players who are watching that game, are we consistent, or are we calling like what they expect that push to look like?
No, absolutely. And I think that's important because, if you walk the sidelines at a youth field now, on a random Saturday here in the spring, and it's a U10 or U12 game, and some kid, as a ball's coming played to him, gets shoved right in the back. Whether that arm comes out 6 inches and it's just a short arm or a full arm push, it's a foul. And it should be called most times than not. But you take that same type of contact and you put it into a pro game or a college level game where a ball's getting played in and a guy's getting pushed a little bit, it may be a foul, but there's sometimes a little bit of a longer leash on what kind of contact is allowed, and because it's an expected contact for that level of play. And it's hard because you sometimes in these youth games you have parents who are watching these pro games, going to pro games like Detroit City FC or NISA games, or watching games on TV, and they see things that are allowed in certain aspects, and then it's not being it's being called then again on them in a youth game, in their child's game, and vice versa, where things aren't called, and so it's hard, but the game has to be officiated differently for different age groups. It's important because we can't allow certain behavior at that younger age group to try to, curtail the game in the right way and give these kids the opportunity to learn to play the game in the proper manner. And I think another thing that comes with that is the way that these players at different age groups can control their body. Sure. And I think, body control is one of those things that we expect players at a high school, college, professional level to have better control of their body and when they're going in for a hard challenge or going up for a challenge in midfield, whereas sometimes a youth player may not have that same body control.
For sure, absolutely. And reading, what do those players at that level, what do they expect that contact to happen, And I think when you're just starting out, and that could mean a lot of random quantifiers to that, but either the younger age groups, the more novice levels of play, if there's a little bit of bumping, we need to call those pushes. We need to demonstrate, nope, that's a foul. We see that today, But then I think, as you talked about, and when we get to the higher levels of play, a lot more of the players Their body, their control of their body is at a higher level because they have more experience. They've experienced that push several times in several games. And so maybe they want to keep playing. And so that's where that concept of advantage and keeping up with the flow of play and stuff comes in. But really telling, what does the player expect there?
Yeah, no, I think that's important. And that's where some of those differences come into play, is because the control of the body by the individual player themselves, but also understanding how to control their body around other players, and expected contact, and knowing that there is going to be a certain physicality level to the game. And that can differ, going obviously from a youth game into a college or pro game. And that's why I was speaking to a referee about this recently, that the high school game is sometimes the hardest game to referee, because you're dealing with kids from age 14, sometimes 13, haven't turned 14 yet, all the way up to 18, and you're talking over like a 3, 4, 5 years of age gap, and they're all playing together on one field sometimes in a varsity setting, and it can be very difficult because the 13 or 14-year-old may not have that control of his body yet for going into a challenge, making a tackle, whereas the 17, 18-year-old is much better at controlling their actions and knowing what they're doing.
Steve, to a T, and even a step further, like as I was coming up as a referee, the under 15 boys age group to me was by far my hardest level to ever try to get an understanding of that level of play, because you have kids on that field that are 4 foot tall and 6 foot tall, and they're all at different stages of development, stages of maturity, as we get to talking about some of these other topics and how much they can handle, how much they're able to mentally process and keep their heads in the game. And at the U15 level, you put that all on one field, and it's almost unpredictable.
It is. It actually can be. If you were to go to a tournament or watch games, sometimes everyone assumes that the 17-18 must be the best level, and yes, it's sometimes the better skilled players or older players that are looking to advance their careers, but. If you want to watch sometimes some of the more difficult, challenging games, check into a U14, U15 game, because your point is so spot on, that the difference in kids and development at that breaking point right there is so various. It's so and that it creates quite a difficult match sometimes to have to handle. In handling matches, we talk about language, and I think it's important to note that we do our best to not allow or promote an environment in which inappropriate and poor language is used. However, there's also, let's be real, let's not, there's going to be plenty of times in atmosphere where there's going to be players cussing at each other, coaches cussing at their own players, cussing at the opponents, cussing at us as referees. And there has to be a certain level of, understanding the setting and understanding the scope and understanding, where it's coming from and how that's being addressed. And it's far different when we're dealing with it at a high school level, where everyone in the stands can hear and administration is right on the sideline.
Absolutely.
And that's a tough thing that, some people, see the pros get away with saying this, that, and the other, and think it's okay to do it in their game, where even in a NISA type level or USL, we can't allow it in the same manner that they can on maybe a World Cup stage.
Absolutely. And you think about, yes, words are uttered, but who can hear it? Who does it affect? Is that something that it was just between me and the player, or 2 players, or now has that affected 10 guys all coming together in a mass confrontation? And so there's a lot of dynamics to thinking about the language and what a player says and how we react to it.
And how do you, personally, you've done, that professional setting. How do you have to change your mindset when you go into a match like that, where listen, you're going to get MF'd, you're going to get called this, that, and the other in a game. How do you manage it as far as your player management during that game, with players in that type of atmosphere and dealing with player management? Because that's what the language is. It becomes part of this player management profile.
Yeah, no, I mean, and absolutely. There are certain things that are just automatics. If you come up and you MF me, I can't sit there and take that. I can't let that be the standard now that 22 players out on the field get to do.
Sure.
But if there's, you know, a penalty kick decision that someone disagrees with, and you know, the female player comes running up back to midfield, and she's like, "You fucking missed that one." Excuse my language. You know, I can turn to her and say, "All right, do you want my whistle today? Or do you think you can do this one better? Okay, you know, your turn next time." Or, you know, make a little bit of a lighthearted joke, and then kind of have a moment with that player where it's like, you know, we're human, you know, and as long as that language was between me and that player, I've got some pretty thick skin, and I can put up with that. Just some of those that are those bigger, public, provocative, and again, more people witnessing and hearing that, it's a form of disrespect, you know, whether that's to the referee or the player's opponent to opponent. That's another one that, you know, we can't, it's going to escalate the game in so many other ways. On the other hand, in the example that you gave, a coach is going to yell at their players, and that's going to happen, and there's going to be frustration all around. But if that's something that we can all move on from and get back focused on the play, how do we not prevent that from, you know, really impacting the game?
Oh, yeah. No, I think it's important because I think there's times, like you said, you know, listen, you know, in a game when you make a critical call, a critical match decision, something maybe in the penalty area or something that ends up in resulting in a yellow card or red card, we understand that that's an inflection point in the game. That's a point when the temperature of the game is usually going to skyrocket. And so we have to understand that there is going to come frustration. There's going to come a bit of an outburst. It doesn't mean it's always acceptable, and it does mean that there's a realm in which they can kind of work within. But yes, they're going to react. They're going to outburst at times. The problem is, like to your point, is when it becomes too public, it becomes too personal, and to your point, you know, if it's in a large stadium with 10,000 people and not everybody hears it, there's a little bit longer leash that you can let things go because you're in a different realm and a different scope where it's not being heard by everyone. So now it's not becoming as public as it may seem. And dealing with that, like you said, about having thick skin, it's important because a lot of times these coaches just need to vent and want to vent, especially, you know, involvement as like a fourth official where, you know, a lot of times younger, inexperienced fourth officials will immediately jump up to a coach who drops a swear word on the sidelines. And listen, if this is a U12 game at State Cup final, we don't want a coach cussing up a storm with parents. We get that. But at a semi-professional or U18 level, the coaching style, and whether you agree or disagree with it is one thing, but a coach may, you know, decide to outburst, and we need to show a little bit of compassion and understanding and give that coach a leash. Now, if he's doing it for all 90 minutes, we have a problem. But if it's something that he's, you know, doing in a moment, then, you know, I think it's something that we have to allow the game to breathe a little bit. And so I think that's, you know, a really important thing that younger referees need to be aware of. So that's we're going to go to a break here. We talked about some of the things of different age groups and different leagues, and we're going to dive back in here as how different skill levels in the game affect the way we ref, and different things to think about as referees when you're refereeing different skill levels, as I'm joined here by Nicole Green on the V.A.R, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking to grow here in 2023? Let the Michigan Soccer Network help you and your restaurant fill more seats. Help you and your law firm get new clients. Help you and your dental practice find more patients. Find more roofing customers for this upcoming summer. And to help you and your medical practice find new patients. To learn more or get started, visit MichiganSoccerNetwork.com. Don't just burn calories, torch those little suckers. Basecamp Fitness Troy, opening up this March, will help you get maximum results in half the time. Our intensity intervals of cardio and strength training will supercharge your calorie burn, all in just 35 minutes. Make sure to lock in our Founders Rate and claim your 2-week risk-free trial by scanning the QR code on your screen. Basecamp Fitness Troy, located at 443 East Big Beaver Road in Troy, Michigan. Granite City Food and Brewery has 2 Michigan locations in Troy and Northville. Serves made-from-scratch food, brews in-house beer, and even has brunch every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. To learn more about their daily specials or to book a private party, visit gcfb.com. Make sure you head over to Granite City in Northville at the corner of 7 Mile and Haggerty, or the Troy location at 16 Mile and I-75. Thank you for stopping by the Michigan Soccer Network. To not miss out on any of the action, all you have to do is simply hit the subscribe button, and that way you're notified every time we bring new content or go live. Thanks for stopping by.
Saying action. Go. And action. Hi, we're the Tilly Sisters. And check out, we're the Tilly Sisters. Check out our journey on the Michigan Soccer Network. You weren't looking Hi, we're the Tilly Sisters. And you can check out our journey on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Welcome back here to the V.A.R. I'm your host, Steve Besk, alongside my special guest today, Nicole Green. I'd like to remind everybody to please head over to our YouTube page, type in search Michigan Soccer Network, hit that subscribe button. It is free, it costs you nothing, and it is the way that you, the viewer, can show your support for us here at the Michigan Soccer Network. You can also follow us on all our social platforms at MI Soccer Network. All right, now we're going to dive in here, Nicole, to talking about how skill level in different skill levels can affect the game in which we're refereeing. And the first topic within that skill level is the way that the pace of play can be dictated, and how we as referees have to adjust with the different way of pace of play and skill level.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And pace of play can come into, differences when you're on an artificial surface or a grass surface. We can talk about how fast the players are. We can talk about, are they playing short passes, long passes? Is it a kick and run game? But yeah, that pace of play, and whether it's really ball possession or we're doing a lot of attacking, that really changes up the game in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely. And I think it's something, you have to know sometimes if it's going to be a game of the long balls, that you're going to be doing a lot of running. And maybe it's something where you have to have those conversations with your assistant referees to say, hey, there are going to be times I'm caught and I'm going to need your help to call fouls. And those are conversations you can have in your pregame. But, there's been plenty of times in games in which I've been an assistant or I've been a referee in which I've had to make a call in an area, in a zone that I usually am not making that call. Heck, there was a time as a fourth official that I end up running down to the left because the referee got caught and slipped, and it was going to be across from AR2. AR1 can't come across half, really. And so I ran down as a fourth official to get a view of it because we had microphones, and at least I was there. And it's not something that you expect to have to do, but in the pregame, we had talked about, if you need to help make a call, even as a fourth official, you help make that call. And in that moment, I've never done that in my life, but I knew I needed to get down and almost near the corner flag across from AR2, which is a position the fourth official really should never be in, right? Unless you're breaking up players, you really should have no reason down there. But it was a situation where the pace of play, it was a combination play. Our center referee got caught behind and needed help. And so sometimes that pace of play really can dictate, the type of, in the teams that play possession and very slow, it's a lot easier. You know that it's a lot easier to put yourself in better position to see things happening when that pace of play isn't as quick. And the different skill levels when we're refereeing about types of fouls and misconduct that happen in different skill levels. You talk about a young U12, U15, U13 game, fouls happen, but more times than not, they're incidental contact, or there's no intent, or there's no malicious, outlook on the play. But sometimes as you get older, or you can tell within a game, the more skilled players, they know exactly what they're doing and how to commit those fouls.
Absolutely. And at the, at the more basic entry level of play, as we talked about in the previous segment, they might not be as control of their body or the movement that they're making. And so that contact created, it might have been incidental. It might have been on accident, but it doesn't change the fact it's still a foul. But that is sometimes tougher to explain or tougher to get those decisions accepted or bought on the field because, oops, I didn't mean to do that. Well, but you did, and it's still a foul that we have to call today.
And that's kind of where we also then have to start to determine what becomes a yellow card in maybe a stopping of a promising attack with intent or a tactical foul. One of those fouls that happened that was a deliberate, or people call it professional foul, tactical foul, and you start to draw this gray line in between that age of 13, 14, 15, where these kids are now old enough and aware that they know what they're doing. They know when they should commit a foul. And there are plenty of times, I'm sure, in youth matches that fouls happen like that maybe should get booked. And some referees will overlook it and just say, oh, it was just a simple foul. Yeah, but, it stopped that promising attack. And it's tough to start to insert that into the game because at the younger levels, even 10, 11, 12, at the highest DA academy, there are kids that are aware.
Oh, 100%.
But most of the kids at that level aren't. And so it's hard to punish them with yellow cards. But then, you've got coaches on opposing teams or fans screaming for yellow cards, and partially they're not wrong in some scenarios. But it's hard to judge the intent sometimes of those younger kids because they are still so young and those types of misconduct that happen.
And still learning and developing, right? As the more experience in the game, you get to know, okay, if I do blank, then it is a foul. If I do blank, that will result in a yellow card. And that takes learning and experience in the game too.
And I think it's important, as referees, like we can't referee a U9, U10 game the same way we ref a U18 game. Like, right. You have to have some understanding that these kids are learning and create opportunities. Some of the best referees I remember having as young kids were referees who explained their decisions and what happened on the field. And it's not necessary on every call, and it's not necessarily throughout an entire match. But there are sometimes you can pick your moments at that youth level to impact the game and put your fingerprint on the game, and more than just, I'm here to make the decisions, call out of bounds, call goals and fouls. There are moments sometimes to help kids in situations, and sometimes those can have much more long-lasting effects on the development of those players. And talking about establishing, the way fouls are called and things, and establishing the control of a game, talk about how you may approach a game differently and how you want to control a USL men's game versus maybe how you go out and do a collegiate women's game.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's definitely a point of awareness as a referee that I think you need to have about every time you step on the field, what is that level? Who are the players you have that day? And I think that knowing some of these aspects we've been talking about, like pace of play, skill level, ability of the players, the type of ball possession or long ball that a team is going to play, that's going to change how I approach refereeing the game. So you talk about, maybe the difference between a professional men's match or a Division I women's NCAA match. Extremely high level of play, but the gender is different, right? And so each different type of play or each league might also want something different. I will tell you, and I think you're familiar with, in the NCAA game, they play so many games in such a condensed amount of time. They want fouls. Call the fouls. If we don't call the fouls, the players have more propensity for injury, or there's more contact that's allowed, and generally that is tougher for a team to accept because of how many games they need to get through in their season. When you talk about the professional or a professional men's game, they want to play through advantages. They want any opportunity to keep attacking, even if that goes to a teammate. The ball goes to a teammate, doesn't necessarily stay with the same player who might fall to the ground. And so there might be a higher level of contact that I might allow in a professional men's game because we want to try to allow advantages to develop for potential for goal scoring opportunities.
No, absolutely. And I think that's important, is that a lot of people may think that we're supposed to just ref the games the same way, and it really is different based on so many factors in which the style of that play within that league or conference exists. And we talk about reading the game, and reading the game is something that at different age groups and skill levels can be very frustrating and very difficult as referees, because we put ourselves maybe in wrong positions. And then it becomes very easy sometimes at the higher levels. A ball gets played in, a long ball by one team, and it misses the forward and goes to the right back. A lot of times, if that right back is not under pressure, that ball is going to end up to the center back, maybe back to the goalie, maybe back out to the left back. It's going to swing around the back. And as a referee, you can see it. You sense the ball going here. It's going to go over there. And it's easy to then move yourself into position to know where that next expected ball will be. And sometimes at the lower skill levels, you don't know where the ball is going. They don't know where the ball is going. And so it becomes very difficult. And so, we talked about what that age group of difficult to referee at that 14, 15 years old, whether it's boys, whether it's girls, sometimes that level is so difficult because they're skilled enough to do certain things, but they're not skilled enough always to do those things consistently. So you put yourself in a position, you think you're great. I'm gonna see this ball get played here, and next thing you know, you get hit by the wall, or the ball gets played behind you. And so pace, or the way that we have to read the game and try to understand what the player's able to do that game. It's no good as a referee to put yourself at midfield on every punt if the ball is not going more than 25 yards, and vice versa. And so that's important. We have to read the game and use those clues to help us in those situations.
Yeah, definitely agree.
We kind of dipped into it here just a little bit, but we're also going to talk about the differences between the men's and women's game, and what really makes up some of those major differences within the game. And you kind of talked about it a little bit, but we're going to jump into that after this break when we come back. Here with Nicole Green on the V.A.R. We'll be right back after this short break.
Our mission is to help players take their game to the next level and reach their potential. We help players develop fundamental technical skills such as ball control in tight spaces, dribbling at speed and changing direction, using a variety of 1v1 skills, receiving and finishing from different situations such as volleys, headers, one touch, and off the dribble, with and without pressure. In addition, we help players increase their speed of play, dominate with their off-the-ball movement, awareness of space, defenders, and teammates. We offer a variety of services such as one-on-ones, small groups, as well as large groups and team sessions. We have an experienced coaching staff that is professional, friendly, patient, while still holding players to high standards and holding them accountable. Over the past 3 years, we've built one of the best soccer-specific training facilities in the country. We've also developed one of the most detail-oriented training programs to help out players. No matter what level you're at as a player, I'm confident we can help you get better. For more information, visit our website, evolutionperformancetraining.com, or text or call 248-818-3943.
Now Worrell has a good cutback from him. He'll fire one, and that's going to go in!
Hey, give me some of it. Okay, all right, I'm going. The Journey, the Tilton Girls, take one.
My favorite moments ever as a father was the moment she made the A-team.
They would always push me and my friends as well.
Their authenticity and integrity that they were able to do everything with.
I still struggle with a little bit, just like the confidence, like knowing that I'm in a different environment.
Could not be more proud of you, Justice, and of you, Remini.
Am I gonna be a roast here?
No, it's not a roast.
Ocean, and it was hard. Don't tell anybody that. And action.
I'm a husband. I'm a father.
I'm a sister.
I'm a son. I'm a brother.
I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a referee.
I'm a referee.
I am a referee.
I'm a referee.
To do it before we go out on the weekend.
We do. We do it every week.
Whether we need to or not. We did it today.
It was really dirty.
My parents do it every day.
Hey, kiddo!
Do it every day with the Unlimited Club only at Jack's Car Wash. Protect your car from the hot summer sun, dust, dirt, and contaminants all summer long with the Jack's Unlimited Club.
Join today, starting at just $24.99 a month.
Welcome back here to the V.A.R. I'm your host, Steve Besk. Alongside me today is special guest Nicole Green. Nicole, we are going to talk about differences between the men's and women's game. Only from reffing the game themselves, but even as a referee, the speed of play is the first thing to me that jumps out of play or jumps off the page to me is the biggest difference in the game. And it doesn't mean that fouls don't happen. It doesn't mean severity of fouls don't happen, but the speed of play differs between the men's and women's games. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and we can't. I don't think anyone would disagree. There are physical differences between men and women. And so if you step foot out on a play or on a field with 22 men versus 22 women, I expect the men's game to have a faster pace based on how fast the men on the field are running. Beyond that, they typically do also play a lot more, in my experience, I've seen a lot more of attacking style long ball play. That's going to cause me as the referee to make a lot more long sprints. I'm going to do a lot more running from one end to the other. So my runs might be longer at one particular time. The women's game, I have found it's much more, I think, headed in the direction generally with teams, shorter passes, more possession based. 3 or 4 players coming together and forming those triangles, those diamonds, and continuously moving around each other, but to have passes that are 5-10 yards worth of space, not that 35-40 yard long ball. And so as a referee, my movement is different, right? So I still have to stay out of their passing lanes. Their pace of play might be shorter bursts of sprinting and running, but it might not be a lot of running from one end of the field to the other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they're both challenging because, like, to your point, in the men's game, when you're doing those like long runs, the challenge becomes getting to the spot, getting an angle, getting close enough, but doing that also while watching everything that's going on. Whereas the other challenge in several women's games, maybe I have to make sure I'm out of the way, but also seeing things close enough proximity to play where you're still keeping everything into that, that view that you have there, and so that's very important. We talk about the types of fouls that happen between men's and women's games. And especially in recent years, we've seen probably more clips on the women's side of really violent behavior, excessive force type fouls. We talk about in the college game, whether VB1 or VB2, and that really extracurricular violent behavior. But it also happens in the men's games with the types of tackles that happen. Let's talk about, I know something we've talked about in clinics many a times over and over again. What's those key things that we always talk about as far as what to expect when you think you see a foul coming in like the men's game versus the women's game?
Yeah. For me, when I'm watching the men's fouls and as they happen, I see a lot more aerial challenges, right? And perhaps a lot more, a goal kick going towards midfield, and then there's some pushes in the back before the ball gets there. Or I would also say, I think a lot, the men aren't afraid to go into that really challenging slide tackle and making sure we have the right angle of where's the cleat, where's the ball, where's the opponent's leg, right? And determining all those points of contact to make those difficult decisions. In the women's game, I think when there are some aerial challenges or when the ball is being played with that more possession style of play that we talked about, it might not be as many aerial challenges, but the women a lot of times, our bodies are built different. Our center of gravity is kind of like near the middle of our bodies, waists, hips. So there might be more kind of jostling like between players in that area of their body instead of up high shoulders. So the push foul or whatever, it might look different in that women's, the two players coming together and causing contact than the aerial challenge in the men's game.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing, is the different types of fouls, whether it's, a lot more charging, pushing fouls that come in a women's game, much more jumping at opponents or kicking on tackles for the men's game, and also too how they happen. A lot of times in a men's game, you watch a game, you see a player maybe get bumped, and you see a frustration, and they beeline it towards that player, and you say, "Oh, here comes a foul," or you can kind of see a player, lining up a player for contact. You don't see that often in the women's game. It does happen. Let's not ignore it. It does happen, but more times than not, the women's players try to be sneakier, smarter. They try to take that contact out on another opportunity, or off the ball, behind the whistle or behind the referee, when they're not watching, and behind our back sometimes. And I think that's where the game is, as the fouls don't lose any severity, but they may not always be as noticeable and easy to see, because in a men's game, it's very direct. Man gets fouled, man commits foul. It's very easy. It's very easy to see what it happened on the field. Whereas the women's game, they don't always respond in those ways. It's very much so. Sometimes they won't respond for years to come. I don't know if I had told this story or not, but my first ever varsity high school soccer game, I'm reffing at Ann Arbor Huron High School, and they're playing Downriver Woodhaven High School. And late in the game's going fine. I'm thinking, all right, I'm getting out of my first varsity middle. Like, I'm going to walk out of here just fine. And right towards the end of the game, this girl pulls a girl down. And as she pulls her to the turf, she goes to throw a punch. Yeah. And the girl on the ground rolled out of the way, and she punched the ground and missed, thankfully. Wow. But I still, red card. What I didn't know, and come to find out after the game, is that girl had broke that other girl's leg 2 years prior. And this is the first time they were playing against each other or whatever since, and this happened. And it was one of those things that like sometimes players hold on to grudges, and it's notorious that in the women's game they will hold on to a grudge and not respond in a game, but they will get you the next time out.
Or a teammate. It might not be the player who was fouled. It might be a teammate.
It's one of those things that the types of fouls are just different in the men's and women's game. And again, they don't lose severity. Let's not kid ourselves. It doesn't mean that they're any softer. It's just sometimes they're easier to pick out.
And fewer and further between. Like, the pattern might not be as predictable, but that I think almost makes it more challenging for us as referees. We always have to have that heightened awareness to almost be ready for the unpredictable when it could come up.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more there. And the last point that we were talking about here with the men and women's game was about the style of play. And you kind of touched on it a little bit as far as quick free kicks that are taken. It's usually something that the men's game will a lot of times want in certain scenarios, versus the women's games will a lot of times set up free kicks. Same things as fouls versus advantage. The men's game is they'd much rather you let it go 1, 2, 3 extra seconds and then bring it back if nothing develops. Whereas more times in the women's game, I think they'd rather you just call the foul, because they're not usually looking to play the advantage. They're not anticipating that next touch, and they'd rather just then set up a free kick or a set play.
For sure. And I wish I had statistics on this. I know that somehow NCAA or someone keeps these, but like free kicks in the women's game and in free kicks leading to goals, by far are a very significant way that goals are scored in the women's game. And the women players are smart to that. And I have seen entire play setups run and formations run knowing this is starting from a free kick. And so to get a foul and be able to set up that 10-yard wall and the distance and the players and the formation that they want in that moment is a huge tactic in the women's game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's something that I've noticed over the last several years, that how many times coaches will come up to you in a pregame and bring it up, that like, or talk about it defensively, hey, if they get free kicks, look for this, that, and the other, because the value to these teams for those free kick or set pieces, whether it comes from corner kicks or free kicks, are so important, and so many goals do come from it, that they take so much pride and value into it that it becomes part of that style of play. And so yes, there are teams that you'll see players go down very easily in and around the box. Why? Because they have a good set piece taker and they're really good at those. And it's just it's a tactic, and you have to be aware of some of those things, because then there's other teams who want to play through everything, and even on the women's side, and they just want to keep playing because they have players that can anticipate that next ball. So it comes with challenges on both sides, and it's difficult because we go sometimes from refereeing, a men's game on a Friday night, and maybe you're getting asked to go do a higher level youth game on a Saturday, and then you're going to do a college game on a Sunday. And so we're constantly going back, and there are some times where it takes 30 seconds to a minute into a game to kind of get a feel for, all right, I can't call what I think I want to call here because this game doesn't need that, or this level of play needs a certain type of refereed game.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just to get back to like that conversation about free kicks, so on the men's side, if I am calling a foul and giving a free kick, I'm getting the heck out of there, because I think the men's player, as fast as they can put that ball back in play, or if there's a little bit of a tricky, a guy's just going to go streaming down to the corner flag or something, and there's an opportunity he's open, they may not want that setup like the women's game does. And so it's definitely two different styles, I think.
Yeah, and it can be difficult to be going into a game and knowing that you blow a whistle, and so many people would blow the whistle, call the foul, like, no, I'm going to come in, I'm going to set the ball, I'm going to set the wall, I'm going to make sure everything's proper. And that's all well and good in most scenarios, but especially when you get to that higher level of play, there's teams that don't want you anywhere near there.
Yep.
Like, get out of my way.
Yep.
You called the foul. If the defense blocks it, I know I'm going to deal with it from afar anyway. Let them play, because a lot of times, and so many teams now will play negative. Yep. It never used to be the case as much, but they'll put that ball down quickly, play negative to move that ball around, because sometimes they know if they can catch numbers on a backside, it's more advantageous for them to do so. So it's very interesting. It's refereeing different levels like we do, and not having to focus just on one level, provides a lot of challenges on a daily basis. And I thank you so much for joining us in this conversation today, Nicole. I really appreciate it, and thank you for joining us. We're going to touch on a couple little pieces here of things going on in the rest of the referee community. Just wanted to give a shout out here to any and all referees that are in the Granville or Grand Rapids area. National referee Ryan Homick is leading some fitness training workouts Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock. Location is changing, so please reach out to Ryan to get more details. He has kindly included his email for us there on the screen. It is homick@outlook.com. Please reach out to him. No experience needed. There's no cost. All he asks is show up with a good effort and willing to commit to getting better each and every day. And this is the third year that they're running these workouts. And it's a good opportunity for referees to train with other referees. I think it provides a good platform to meet other referees in your community or surrounding area. Sometimes, those friendships and those connections that we make really can help you in the long term. So Ryan is putting on those workouts, and we want to appreciate him for doing that. You can also reach out to him on Facebook as well. He said if you have any questions about where those referee trainings will take place, again, on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock in the Granville, Grand Rapids area. Also, if there are any other referees out there with information, training sessions like this going on, you guys are doing your own fitness training and want to get that information out there, please do not hesitate. Reach out to us here at the network. I will gladly find ways to get that information into our broadcast. As well, I just want to let everybody know that if you are interested in refereeing or need any information about refereeing, please head over to michiganrefs.org for all the most up-to-date information regarding recertification and continuing education for existing referees as well. That will about do it here for our second episode here on the V.A.R. Hope you enjoyed the insights and discussion here with Nicole Green today as we discussed refereeing different ages and skill levels and genders. We'll be back with more exciting content here on the Michigan Soccer Network. Again, don't forget to head over to our YouTube page, hit that subscribe button, catch all the content, including all the episodes of the V.A.R. and all of our other shows. Please stay safe, stay healthy, and stay involved in the beautiful game of soccer. See you next time here on the V.A.R.